So Vajra Statement 6.3 is the next Vajra Statement. Vajra Statement 3 says causes and results are manifestations of momentary thought. Causes and results. So in other words, how karma works, right? So actually the word karma only refers to causes, which is action. Literally karma is action, and then results are vipaka in Pali, which is the results of actions. Actions and their results. Then we translate as causes and results. More literally is actions and results. Now this word karma in Sanskrit, the different Indian spiritual systems have slightly different explanations of what constitutes karma. Among some Hindus, karma only refers to ritual actions. Among some ancient Hindus. Today, when you ask Hindus what is karma, they will say, oh, that is basically all your actions are karma. Then spiritual actions are a particular type of karma. So different religions in India that originate in India, they all use the word karma. So then the Buddha has his own slightly different definition of karma. So when Buddha says, what we call karma is intention. And so he emphasizes that it's not just any action, but actions that have intention behind them, then they constitute what we call karma. Sneezing, for example, is not karma because there's no intention behind. You walk, right? And then you trip, That's not karma. There's no intention. Unless, you plan to trip so that you will, fall onto someone else whom you hope they will catch you. Of course, that then becomes karma. So only actions that have intention, that has motivation, only those types of actions becomes karma. So just to clarify this a little bit before we look at the statement. So the statement says actions and results. What are actions and results? They are the manifestations. They are the embodiment of momentary thoughts. So this is related, to the last statement that says, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana are only the appearances of your own mind. So then now let's look at that general statement more specifically in terms of actions and results. So actions and results, skillful, virtuous actions, unskillful, non-virtuous, unvirtuous actions, and the result, which is suffering. And then skillful and virtuous actions and their results, which is happiness. All of these, Kyobpa says, they are nothing but the manifestations, the embodiment of momentary thoughts. That means thoughts that only exist for moment, which is all thoughts. And so what does it mean here? So it's helpful to look at what is this statement countering. The statement is countering those who say that cause and result of samsara and nirvana connect over long periods of time. Meaning, Kyobpa Rinpoche said this statement about momentary thoughts. So what has been contrasted is momentary thoughts. That means, I think, we don't need to read this so literally, emphasizing like the thoughts. You might think, what is this momentary thoughts? Basically, in contrast to those who say, how cause and effect works is it works over long periods of time. So that emphasis of understanding cause and effect emphasizes, maybe you could say emphasizes like the harder to see, harder to experience aspects of cause and effect. Often, like for example, if we see like some very, what we think to be very bad people, these days we're not short of, these kinds of people, or at least we can easily come up. But that, at the end of the day, that only says, we have it easier to identify who are the bad people. Are they really bad? Who knows? But definitely, when we think of some bad people, or people that we label to be bad, then sometimes we wonder, how come bad karma hasn't caught up with them yet? Why are they still around? At the very least, something bad should happen to them. If not, sometimes you think, how come they're still alive? Why can't they just get out of the way? Yeah. So it is at those times, then we tend to think, if we believe in karma, cause and effect, then we think, oh, well, karma works over many, many lifetimes. So it's very hard to say. So it's our way to kind of like try to explain it away, like why some of these bad people are still around. Here, Kyobpa says, actually, karma works even more immediately. Karma works even in the time it takes, for one thought to appear, stay, and disappear. That principle of karmic causality plays out even in one moment, one unit of thought. Karmic manifestation is already there. So this is the main point when it says causes and results are manifestations of momentary thoughts. Or another version of this says all phenomena are the embodiments of momentary thoughts. All phenomena, let's say, everything we experience, right? Don't turn it into too technical terms. Then they become very nice philosophy, but we don't know how to carry it into our day-to-day life. And so you can translate this into, all our experiences. What are they? They are the embodiments of momentary thoughts. Thoughts that only last for one moment. And where are these thoughts? What kinds of thoughts are these? All our thoughts only last for a moment. And all these moments are what makes up what we call reality. So what we call reality, what we call my reality, if we have a little bit more awareness, we won't just say reality as if, it's like that for everyone. If we have some understanding, we will know to not say things like, well, reality, the reality is la 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 la. We would be more careful and accurate when we say my reality. And then what is your reality? Your reality is none other than the result of these moments and the result of all these thoughts that you have. All these momentary thoughts that you have. They manifest. So that's how you call embodiment. They manifest. Yeah, they manifest. And that is everything we experience. So all phenomena are the embodiments of thoughts that are just momentary. So let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's explanation here. Therefore, all phenomena that comprise all possible causes and results, such as happiness and suffering, appear as manifestations, as embodiments, as manifestations of momentary thoughts, such as virtue and non-virtue. That is, which is to say, all the happiness and suffering in this and future lives. So what is happiness? What is suffering? Happiness and suffering is none other than, the accumulation of all of these moments of thoughts. It is said in the expression of the qualities of Manjushri's realm, all phenomena are like conditions. They fully depend on motivation. One will obtain the results that accord with whichever aspirations one has made. So depending on the quality of your mind, that is the reality that you will construct. And that is the reality that you will experience. And that is the everything that you experience. So this takes us back to the last statement, which emphasizes, right? All the phenomena, all the experiences that we have, they are none other than the result of mind. And they are only possible because mind exists. If mind exists, then appearances exist. If mind don't exist, appearances don't exist. So mind in the small m, the afflicted mind. So actually it is said, Buddhas don't have mind. Buddhas don't have mind. Meaning the afflicted mind. Tibetans have a whole bunch of words that have honorifics. So when it's used for Buddhas, they use the honorific form. I think in Spanish, maybe there's also words like this. In English, this barbaric language, there's no honorific. Just one word, But in Tibetan, there's honorifics. So sem is mind. We translate as mind. So semchen, like sentient beings, those who possess mind, literally semchen, those who have mind are semchen are sentient beings. So you can create a hybrid Tibetan English word, semchen beings. Beings who possess mind. Semchen. Semchen tamche dewa dang dewing gyundan den Gongchik. the four immeasurables, right? We say, manam kadang nyampe semchen tamche, semchen sentient beings tamche, all sentient beings. So the hybrid word, semchen beings, beings who possess mind. Sem. Buddhas don't have sem. You know what Buddhas have? Buddhas have Gongpa, which is the name of this text, Gongchik. Gong also means Buddha's mind. So Gongchik we normally translate as chik is simple, one. Well, actually not so simple. It can mean one, but here, Khenpo Rinpoche says, actually, it's not talking about one instead of two or three or four or five. Although most of the time we translate now, what's fashionable now, the translation in English is single, right? And that has more to do with one, as in one instead of two. Three is too many. And now it sounds like Monty Python, Life of Brian, the one with the pulling of the bomb, count to three, one is two, not enough, 4 is one more than 3, Anyway, it's not 1, 2, 3, the Chikpa. I remember Khenpo Rinpoche says, actually it's more unified. Chikpa can also mean same. In fact, in Tibetan, they'll say, yeah, same. They will say, chikpa. That means it's same, it's identical. So, chik. Anyway, gongchik, gongpa is also Buddha, what Buddhas have, mind. This is like mind without afflictions, without afflictive emotions. These are called gongpa. Gongpa in other contexts also means intention. But this is intention without affliction. This is intention in the sense of not, right now we think we have intentions, but actually our intentions are merely habitual patterns. We like to think, we are autonomous beings, right? Well, I made that decision. You don't make that for me. I'm going to make it myself. When in fact, it's not really you, It's your habitual patterns. And so in that sense, we don't have true intention. All our decisions are determined by our habit. And the thing is that the habits are not just one set of habits. We have all kinds of different sets of habits that sometimes they even fight with each other. That's why sometimes it's so hard to make any decision. And then we think, we have autonomy. No, we don't. Only Buddhas have true autonomy. Ironically, Buddhas have true autonomy when they destroy the idea of I versus others. And then we try to get autonomy by insisting I am to decide, not you. And the more we insist, I, me, mine, the less autonomy we have, the less freedom we have. Buddhas discovered freedom when they totally dispel I versus you. And they bridge that gap between I and not I. How do you bridge that gap? By destroying fixation on I. Anyway, so I don't know, I forgot now how we got here, But this is good discussion, I think. So ordinary beings have mind, meaning afflicted mind. And because of that afflicted mind, then most of the time we experience afflicted existence, samsara. So anyway, continuing. It is said in the close application of Mindfulness Sutra, thus the mind is like an artist, unquote. The linkage to the next life at the time of death is especially crucial. So now, Khenpo Kunpal's commentary, in a way, he is summarizing. And the more I look at these two commentaries, the long commentary by Drikung Dharmakirti, which is now published, this thick. The more I look at Khenpo Dharmakirti's commentary and I look at Khenpo Kunpal, basically Khenpo Kunpal kind of summarizes. And then sometimes big chunks, kind of got left out. So here, if we look at Dharmakirti's commentary, Dharmakirti, before jumping now to suddenly, it feels like suddenly, the linkage to the next life at the time of death is especially crucial. So it's like it just suddenly brings this out. But if we look at Dharmakirti's larger commentary, it says, here, let me read what it says. Of the two, namely true reality, which is the embodiment of non-thoughts, and conditioned phenomena, which are the embodiments of thought. So here, Dharmakirti begins by saying, even the Dharma Dhatu, the Buddha state, is still the embodiment of something. Embodiment of what? Non-thought. Whereas conditioned phenomena, meaning this relative realm of existence, where there is the division already into subject-object, there are the embodiment of thoughts. The embodiment of non-thoughts, which is true reality, that is also what we call Mahamudra, which is also what we call the natural state, which some people call Arkansas, the natural state. That's the motto or something like that for Arkansas, where Joyce lives. So even true reality, it's an embodiment. If the embodiment of what? Non-thought. Non-thought is not the absence of thought. Yeah? It's not like you achieve true reality by getting rid of thoughts, Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Oh, non-thought now. I finally evicted all the thoughts from my mind. We think that's non-thought. No. That is the absence of thoughts. And absence of thoughts, you could momentarily cause that to happen, absence of thoughts. But they will always come back. You could enter a state of meditation where all thoughts subside, but eventually you got to get up. When you get up, all the thoughts will come back. Non-thought here is not the absence of thought. Non-thought is the understanding or realization that thoughts don't have essence to them. That thoughts are interdependently arising and therefore has the quality of illusion, and therefore is not solid, and therefore can change. And therefore, we don't need to be stuck. That realization the embodiment of that realization of non-thought, that is called the true reality state. Anyway, so since it says all phenomena are the embodiment of thoughts, so then conditioned phenomena is the embodiment of thoughts. And thoughts, that's how we got to that discussion of Sem and Gong. Sem is by definition afflicted. Sem, what we normally just say, thoughts or mind. So Buddhas don't have mind, they have Gong, Gongpa. And what's that Gongpa in this context? Non-thought. They have realized non-thought. So then their reality is the embodiment of that. Can you imagine the embodiment of that? It's like, wow. The embodiment of non-thought. So that's their reality. Our reality is the embodiment of all our Sem. And all our Sems are all conditioned and afflicted. And so then our reality is conditioned and afflicted. So then here he says, as for the conditioned phenomena, which is the embodiment of thoughts, of all these afflicted thoughts, then there are three aspects. One is the present. The present reality is the accumulation of all these, the accumulation of the embodiments, the embodiments of all the afflicted thoughts gives rise to our present, kind of present reality. Then next, the movement or the transference at the time of death. And the third case has to do with changing body without dying. That's kind of a peculiar case. So Choda is saying, as there are these three, you can look at it in these three cases, three contexts. Present, let's start with that. The present, which is the embodiment of the thought of a single moment. The present, so what we call present, right? What I'm experiencing now. What is that? That is the embodiment of the thought that lasts for just one moment. And so he elaborates. When any virtuous or non-virtuous thought arises in one's mind, something in accordance with that is established as its embodiment, as a mental projection. Thereby, any immediately embodied result of virtuous and non-virtuous action has ripened, as in the case of Netso, the son of the Brahmin Totaya, and the dog called white conch shell. So what is this referring to? So let's look. So this is referring to the story of Netso, the son of the Brahmin Totaya, and the dog called conch shell. So once the Buddha went on alms round and came to the house of Netso. Inside the house, a dog called conch shell was lying on a piece of white cloth. His earthen bowl was filled with fine food. When the dog saw the Buddha, he barked. When the Buddha remarked on the dog's untamed nature, the dog became even more angry and hid under a bed. When Netso came home, he saw the state of his beloved dog and asked what happened. And when the family told him what happened, he became very angry at the Buddha. Then the Buddha saw this, the Buddha understood this and told his monks, that this is what's going on with this guy, Netzo. And if he were to die right now, he would be reborn in the hell realm. Because he was so angry at the Buddha for what he thought the Buddha did to his dog. Now, then Netzo happened to turn up, where the Buddha was saying, telling his disciple what's going on with Netzo way over there, because Buddha had the power to see. Then suddenly Netzo turns up. And kind of Netzo turns up, to yell at the Buddha. Then the Buddha stopped him. Buddha said, "Do you want to know something about your dog?" He said, "What do you mean?" And the Buddha said, "Your dog, is actually the rebirth of your father." So Netzo did not believe that. He said, No. Buddha said, "Okay, you don't believe me? I tell you what, you go back now, you give good food to your dog. Then you talk to your dog and you said, 'Hey, dog, in your previous life, I know you hid away some treasures. Show me where those treasures are. And if you do that from this moment on, I will give you this good food every day.'" So he went back and he tried that on the dog. And the dog went and dug up all the treasures that he hid when he was the father. And so now Netzo is very happy, and became very devoted to the Buddha. And then the Buddha said to his monks, if Netzo were to die at this very moment, he would be born in the realm of heaven. The point here is more that the heavens and the hells that we experience right now, even without needing to be born, literally to be born, present. Already in the present, Netzo was one moment experiencing a hellish reality, and in the next moment experiencing a heavenly reality, and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so in this discussion, in the old commentaries, Dorje Sherab and Rinjeng Chanchup go on to talk about how when loving kindness, I quote from Dorje Sherab, when loving kindness, compassion, and the resolve for awakening arise, all appearances suddenly becomes blissful. The accomplishment of benefit and bliss through all exterior experiences is sukhavati. Deity practice too is the embodiment, is such an embodiment. As one practices and as realization arises within, it is vividly actualized as the embodiment of that thought, which is the embodiment of bodhicitta. So what is the deity? So in the present, when we engage in deity practice, then the deity that appears is the embodiment of our bodhicitta. Or we better make sure that it is the embodiment of our bodhicitta and not the embodiment of our jealousy, of our hatred, of our desire, of our pride. So it says that if you practice deity yoga as the embodiment of pride, you imagine, I'm this Buddha, I'm so great, this, that, then deity yoga becomes poison. So that's one context of talking about the embodiment of this momentary thought. The next one pertains to what happens, when one life, when our when our existence in this life ends, and then the next life, we transition from this to the next life. There, they discuss about how the last moment before you exit this life is said to be a especially powerful moment. So that if in that moment, a powerful virtuous or non-virtuous thought is your last moment, that last moment, that thought, all thoughts, only last for a moment. No matter how virtuous or unvirtuous, the time it lasts is the same. It's just momentary. And so we should be clear about. But then, if in that last moment in this life, right before you die, is virtuous, then it will propel you to a better rebirth. If in that last moment it's negative, non-virtuous, it will push you to a less desirable existence. And so in the commentary, they give some examples. One example given was how, let's see if I can find it. There was a story about in the case of King Ashoka. He was remembered as a great Buddhist king, but it is said that after his life as King Ashoka, he was reborn as a Naga. And that was because it says, while one day, Ashoka was sleeping, the servant was waving a palm leaf, cooling him down. And but the servant, also got like sleepy, and so then this palm leaf touched the king, and then the king, he's old at this point, he became very annoyed, and he said, now that I'm old and powerless, even a servant would beat me. And so be careful, when we get old, we get kind of grumpy and grouchy, And then in that moment, Ashoka died. And it says because of that, he was born as a Naga. There was another case where there was a female servant of some king. But one day she gave birth to a child, and then she wasn't married, so this was like, in that culture, considered very negative. So then the king banished her. So she was carrying her baby, and somehow, she was so overwhelmed by the shame, she like threw herself and the baby into a river, to drown. So it's actually very negative action, killing herself, killing her baby. But in that last moment, she, right before she passed, she looked at her baby, and tremendous loving kindness came up in her mind. And it said because of that, she was born in the Brahma realm. And so So you have, now, then of course you will say, wait. Then what about karma? This is still karma. So whatever positive or negative that Ashoka did all his life, actually Ashoka's history is a little messy. First part of his life is said that he killed 999 of his brothers. I don't know, maybe exaggeration, how does someone end up with 1,000? Father, no matter how strong, how do you father 1,000 children? Anyway, he killed many of his brothers, to become the king of all of India. He killed, they say, 999 of his brothers. Then after that, he built how many? 100, some ridiculous number. I have 108,000. No. He built 84,000 stupas. It's said that he built them all over the world, not just in India. So maybe in Guatemala, in Peru, in Alaska, and he built 84,000 stupas and did all kinds of wonderful things for Buddha Dharma. And then when he died, this fan fell on him and he got annoyed. He said, when we are old, even when we're great kings, when we're old and powerless, even our servants bully us. And got angry, he died. But all the positive and all the negative that he has done, with regards to all the negative that he has done, he can purify, of course. Then all the positive that he has done, he can also destroy if he regrets them. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Why did I do this? That will destroy it. But then otherwise, they will all ripen accordingly. So using other examples, I would say, for example, being born as an animal is considered lower, right? Because there's no autonomy, no ability to practice the Dharma, or very limited ability to practice Dharma fully, compared to being born as a human being. So generally, right, rebirth as a dog is considered unfortunate. But this person that is going to be reborn as a dog, if in the last moment, they think that the last thought is something positive, then they're reborn, as a dog, but into a culture where dogs are like kings, where people treat dogs better than they treat humans. Some parts of the US, some parts of Mexico, that is true. Oh, you were supposed to be born as a dog. Then in the last moment, you have some, very good thought, very positive. You could be born as a human being. But then your negative karma is such that you have a lot of, lack of autonomy. Yeah. So even though you're born as a human being, you might be born in a place where you are subjected to all kinds of limitations. So the last moment gave you a good human rebirth, but then you're born into a context at a time of human history within a culture where you have no freedom at all. So essentially you're like a dog, but with a human body. Conversely, you could be born as a dog, but living better than humans. So this last moment creates a reality. The third one is a little more magical. The one that says, you get a different body, but without dying. That is talking about there are cases where people practice certain types of spiritual practice that they can change their whole body without dying. So there are cases like that. So some old monk, practicing some kind of naga sadhana until they change into a naga. This is not recommended. Okay, this is warning. That you can turn into something like that. You become a shapeshifter. So the whole point of this statement is that don't underestimate at all the immediacy of your thoughts, the immediacy of the effects of your thought. In one single moment, you can change your reality quite radically, either for the better or for the worse. Then if you find that, I'm in a worse situation, also don't get so fixated on that. See that actually you can change that. Because every moment is the embodiment of a moment. Yeah. So that's the real bottom line. Every moment is an embodiment of a moment of thought. Let the next moment be different. Initially, the next moment be different is a little contrived, a little forced. But if you keep at it, it becomes natural. So this is 6-3. It's getting late for me, so let's end now with our usual dedication. So going back to the opening and dedication text on page 10. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers, and may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect and precious Bodhi by the power of this vast root of virtue. May we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. For those of you who know Christina, a Sangha member that passed away recently, so again, all our practices, we can dedicate to her for her smooth transition through the bardo, and may her quickly, swiftly achieve Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land. Then also we dedicate this merit that we accumulate, even though the action might seem small. Again, based on the teachings yesterday, say once you know how to work with this, and then even if the action itself is small, the result can be really big. So when we dedicate it the way according to this prayer here, it magnifies, it becomes big. The effect is big. So don't just look at the action and say, oh, I only offered a flower, or I only studied one statement of the Gongchik. But if you really know how to dedicate, the effect becomes really big. Okay, so you all have a good weekend, but this weekend especially is at the height of the Sakadawa season. But the Sakadawa is a whole month, so you can continue to rely on this interdependence to kind of magnify and improve. This is like once a year, we get to charge, recharge, and improve. But we're moving to kind of like, so it's like a bell curve. It begins slow, then becomes strong. And so this weekend is then it becomes really strong. And then the bell curve can go back down, so to say. So Sakadawa Duchen, the great festival of Sakadawa, is this Sunday. In whatever way that you can dedicate Sunday to more formal and intentional practice, that is very good. So, okay, goodbye. Have a good weekend.